Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. And as per usual, we're going to have a little bit of update and then we're going to get into the meat of the matter, a very interesting one today. And then we're going to wrap up with some juicy stuff, So get your popcorn and your drink, whatever it might be, and sit back and relax. We're going to take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
It was wonderful having our Olympians home with us to celebrate their achievements. And we want to thank the National Lottery Authority. It was wonderful to see someone or one's else other than the chairman of the board, Mr. William Baptiste, receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars in check from the National Lottery Authority, the NLA. So thank you for the big checks given to the athletes. I'm sure it will go a very long way for them and to help them along with their sporting career. I just thought the distance between the 200,000, the 100,000 US and the 5,000 was too far. I mean, the young ones, they probably needed even more. And so I thought they probably should get a little bit more than the 5,000. But be that as it may, we appreciate the support towards sports and to our athletes. A word of advice to the NDC, stop trying to capitalize on national events, or should I say, what should be national events, and try to make it your own. The results, if you can see, are damning and catastrophic, to say the least. If you're not seeing, it's getting worse. Less and less people are showing up to national activities because the NDC take it as theirs. It's not working. Keep away your party hawks. Keep them behind the scenes. National events should be national events. And we don't need to see the Nealers and the Gail Purcells and the Orlandos. Keep them behind. Why wasn't the Olympic Committee or the National Athletic Association allowed to host the events of the Olympic athletes? Why wasn't it given to one of the sporting bodies? Your political interference is diminishing our national events and moments. Our Jubilee Independence Celebration, our Carnival, all turned into NDC fanfares. I am hearing some stories coming out of the National Carnival celebrations that are frightening. The involvement of a member of the board, who is also a hierarchy within the government, or should I say the party, I don't know, / government. There's no line between party and government with NDC anymore anyways, right? And a hierarchy in the administration. So these two persons, the member of the board and a member of the hierarchy within the government, ambassador, advisor, you name it. And I'm hearing that those two had conspired during the celebrations to get a lot of things happen, to make a lot of things happen. I am investigating it still, so I ain't calling names, and I ain't saying where I reach, right? That, as I understand, have destroyed the moral and the enthusiasm of some of our artists. So much so, they have vowed to stop performing in competition as long as the NDC is in office. Folks, as I said, I will come back to you once I have the facts on that, but people start to talk. There are persons who are talking about what they saw and what they heard and what they were told to do. Before I come off this topic, I want to speak to the dragging of the flag. You know, it's becoming a bit antsy now for me, especially during the carnival season and Juve morning, and the flag all black up, and it's. I don't think the flag should be used for that purpose. Get a piece of cloth, get a t-shirt, tie your head with any other scarf, a camouflage thing, but leave the flags at home. Juve morning especially, leave the flags at home, please, please. Moving on, we seem to have a supplemental government, always looking for extra. 2 years in office, and we're heading to our second supplementary. We had 2 budgets, and we're heading to our second supplementary budget. Let's have a discussion surrounding this one, the upcoming one. I think probably next week we're gonna have that, and so I want to discuss that with you. I'm gonna change here. I'm gonna get my glasses as well, because we need to read this thing and to so I can share with you what we're coming up against. Now, it's the supplementary estimates 2024. And of course, we have the program project number account. We have the amount allocated, which I'll be reading out to you, the amount allocated for the various supplementals, intended use of funds, and then they're going to tell us was the provision unforeseen at the time of the budget preparation, and if yes, they'll explain why. And then we have explained why the expenditure cannot be deferred until next year, or until the next budget, in other words, the 2025 budget. So now, let's move along. And we have and might I say, the supplemental budget is for the next 4 months. It's up until the end of December, the 31st of December, 2024, okay? Because, you know, by then, the budget for 2025 will be read, and there will be other allocations there. From the Office of the Prime Minister, we have, for other goods and services, and the amount is 2.5 million, and that is for hosting of CARICOM meeting, which will be held in July 2024 and chaired by the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell. So that is the fanfare we had with the opening of the CARICOM roundabout, which has no benefit to us. It's just standing there now. I mean, we could have had the SGU roundabout, who we boast about so many times, and their contribution towards our GDP. I think it would have been more suitable. But all of that went there, $2.5 million. All this while the people in Carriacou is still on the taps. tarpaulin, and some on the step, and the majority of them in shelters, right? And of course, yes, they said the decision to host the meeting was taken earlier on this year. Yes, it was taken earlier on this year. Yes, before burial came, it was supposed to be, and burial came. And so we should have other priorities. The chairmanship was handed over, and so we didn't need the fanfare. But we had to have the fanfare because we need photo ops. We need to add photos of that to the album. So we spent $2.5 million doing so. Continuing along with the Prime Minister's ministry. We have another $250,000 for hosting of CARICOM meeting between August and September. Oh, that's another meeting? And hosting of CARICOM technical work group in October to be chaired by Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell. So another $250,000 there. Then we move along. The 50th anniversary Independence Celebration Project. Another $7.5 million, my friends, towards the anniversary celebrations, the Independence Celebration Project. What project is this? We had $22.5 million that we, up to today, do not know what it was spent on, or we have not had anybody. Even though the opposition in Parliament asked for a breakdown on how the monies were spent, we have not had that in full as yet. But we're asking for another $7.5 million to mark the Jubilee celebration, and that is the intended use of the funds to mark the Jubilee celebration of Grenada 50th anniversary. Yes, they said the program of activities to mark the celebration was not yet decided at the time of the 2023 budget preparation. Really now? Really now? But we got 15 million there. In that budget, moving along. The Ministry of Foreign Trade and Export Development. And we have here $300,000 to increase in subvention support to the Grenada Bureau of Standards and the procurement of additional human resources. And then we have another $200,000 to lease property to facilitate the relocation of the London mission. And then we have another $250,000 to establish the establishment of the Grenada High Commission in Canada. And I'm guessing this is to suit up Sylvester Quallis, the chairman of the NDC, who we are sending to Ottawa, the capital of Canada, someone who has no qualifications in foreign affairs, someone who is a retiree, and, sorry to have to say it, a not so well retiree, who is very sick, and we are paying to send him to Ottawa. And we have in the supplementary allocation a $250,000 allocation. Folks, continuing to the Ministry of Foreign Trade. agri-food sector development and strengthening the national food safety system in Grenada, $684,603. Implementation of a project, agri-food sector development and strengthening the national food safety system in Grenada. The Financial Intelligence Unit, $153,505 allocated to purchase and implement a web-based e-reporting and case management solution. The Ministry of National Security, Home Affairs and Public Administration, Information and Disaster Management, $1,900,000 to settle outstanding debt with Canadian banknote for Grenada's border management system and printing of passport books. Hurricane Beryl is under that as well, the Ministry of National Security. And for Hurricane Beryl response there, $3,830,000. $830,921. So $3,830,921 Hurricane Beryl response to purchase vehicles and other transport-related supplies and material to support the relief operations. So we're spending $3 million plus, 3.8 plus, on vehicles, and our victims are asked to take a loan. We come into that. Moving on. The Ministry of Finance. Hurricane Beryl response again. $25 million support for business reactivation at the GDB. Now, this $25 million apparently comes from the $118 million that we got from the insurance. They're going to put that in the GDB bank and then ask the victims to go to the GDB bank and take a loan to rebuild. So it says here in Explain Why, it says loan grant facility for MSME, including the hotel sector, to support rebuilding and working capital to channel through GDB. The hotel sector. How many hotels got damaged in Beryl? How many, well, whatever in Caracou that got damaged? They have 25 million put aside for that. Okay. Then we have contingency provisions. $18,600,000 to restore the contingency appreciation pursuant to Section 22.2 of the PFMA of 2015. Now, $18,600,000, right? that had to go back into the contingency fund because according to section 22.2, that fund must always have, I think it's 2% of the budget, and it must always have this fund. So apparently, the government has already spent this $600,000. We would like to know on what, for what, when this money from the contingency fund that is supposed to be towards things like hurricane relief and so. And we know that NADMA, the distribution, the relief distribution, had nothing to do with the government of Grenada thus far. That is things people give. That's why they keep asking to channel everything through NADMA so that they don't have to do anything. All of it was given from persons, some to their families who never got it because everything had to be sent through NADMA for distribution, right? So there we go. We would like to know what the 18,600,000 was used on that they now have to replace in the contingency fund. We're moving along, we're moving along, we're moving along. We have under the Ministry of Finance, one of the allocations there, to purchase of vehicles again, $500,000 to provide additional allocation to cover for the purchase of vehicles for the operation of the government service. The Ministry of Economic Development, Planning, Tourism, ICT, and Creative Economy again. We have under there $1.3 million to provide additional counterpart funding to the Climate Smart Agriculture and Rural Enterprise Program, SAREP. Then we have $10,900,000 to increase the provisions for the rehabilitation of Fort George construction and supervision as project implementation accelerates. Now, all these projects that had allocations in the budget, in the 2023 budget, in the 2024 budget, are coming up again in the supplementary budget. It's like none of the projects are finishing up with the original allocations, and we just keep asking for extra and asking for extra. For the Creative Industry Symposium, it's a grant of $135,845 to bring into account grant funding from Latin America Development Bank for hosting of Unleash, Grenada's premier and creative. What? Unleash? Is that the Unleash that went in early 2023, or are we having another Unleash? But there was allocation to that ministry, or that desk, I should say, the creative desk, headed by Orlando Romaine. And so now we're asking for allocation for that desk, for Unleash. Yes, it was anticipated that the conference would be fully financed from local resources, but external funding was mobilized. The conference, yes, look at it here. The conference was held in May 2023, and payments need to be finalized in this fiscal year. Remember, in one of my programs, I asked for an update on the spendings for Unleash, because I mean, we're just spending money and nobody knows. We're not getting reports. We're not getting reports, even when asked for in the parliament. Now we have under that ministry still, we have a hurricane burial response, and that is $2 million. And it says livelihood and recovery support for SIAP beneficiaries. And it just says yes. They didn't give us no explanation. And it says to provide support to SIAP beneficiaries. Now, all of these allocations for hurricane burial response, you see how many already. And the people are being told to go to the bank and take a loan. And then the parliamentary rep throwing words for them as to say they have money in the bank, go and take it and spend it. But we will come to that as well. Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation. Now that's a biggie. This is a biggie here. Mobilization and Empowerment Project number 0114502. $8 million. Now, just bear in mind, these monies that I'm calling here are going into the hands of Minister Andy Williams, okay? $8 million. Rehabilitation and construction of small roads within the 6 parishes throughout Grenada. This represents approximately 20 small roads to facilitate the completion of 26 houses and the completion of 15 new houses in St. Patrick. St. Patrick people, speak up. Y'all have roads going on here, 20 houses that start already, and 15 new ones that's coming on stream in St. Patrick, and $8 million allocation. And here is his explanation, the minister's explanation. The passage of Hurricane Beryl and the heavy and frequent downpours have adversely affected small roads within the state of Grenada, making them impassable due to further deterioration. And in the here to explain, he said to complete houses that have already been started, that's the 26 houses that already been started. Some of the contracts have already been signed for the completion of houses in the parish of St. Patrick. $8 million. Hold on, he gets more. Hurricane Beryl response. And he gets $1.5 million to cover the cost of cleanup activities on mainland Grenada and Carriacou and the Petit Martinique by the Ministry of MIT due to Hurricane Beryl passage. Yes, the passage of Hurricane Beryl would have destroyed more than 95% of the homes and businesses in Carriacou, Petit Martinique, and as a result, MIT was charged with the responsibility to lead the cleanup process in the Sister Isles. Now, boatloads went up every weekend, volunteering. Okay? I think they start to pay some people now. Now we have $1.5 million allocated for that. However, this percentage of damaged housing. We can't seem to get a definite figure. It started at 90%. He's saying here 95%. Only yesterday, in a live done by the minister responsible for Carriacou and Petit Martinique Affairs, said 98%, right? So we're not sure what the percentage is yet. The government said, and the average of the disaster on average would cost 30 million, is about $30 million. Yesterday, the minister said $600 million, about $600 million, right? We all over the place. Anyway, Mr. MIT said this cleanup is of utmost importance and cannot wait until the next budget. Right? Now, for more hurricane response, the Ministry of MIT is receiving $15 million for reconstruction of approximately 200 homes on mainland Grenada in the parishes of St. Mark and St. Patrick. $50,000 per home. This includes labor, material, and equipment costs if deemed necessary. $15 million. Folks, a total of $24.5 million going in Andy Williams, Henry. NDC, all your good. All your real good. In the words of Uncle Tilly, you put in cat, big Tom cat, to watch cheese. Here is the intended use for the funds. Reconstruction, I already told you that. So we're moving along to the intended use of funds, and then they say, was the provision unforeseen? Okay, so here it goes. Due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl, most of the operative word there being most of the housing stock in the parish of St. Mark and St. Patrick was destroyed. I'm going to read this again. Due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl, most of the housing stock in the parish of St. Mark and St. Patrick were destroyed. The explanation given, a decision was taken in cabinet and the responsibility for the rehabilitation of houses nationally was given to the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation. And we have a whole Ministry of Housing with a whole minister, and we also have the Housing Authority, right? But $24.5 million was given to Minister Andy Williams, I guess to help pay off his bills. Time running out there, time running out on them, time running out to them. We midterm already, and clock ticking. The clock is ticking and the writing is on the wall. Captain, the ship is sinking. Captain. We're going to move on. We're moving on. We have another set of Hurricane Beryl responses here for the Ministry of Climate Resilience. and $5.4 million to provide support for the implementation of the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority Waste Management Plan for Carriacou and Petite Martinique and the post-burial hurricane burial. Yes, the cost only became necessary due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl. I can understand this allocation to facilitate debris removal and waste management during the Hurricane Beryl passage. Due to the Hurricane Beryl passage. Then we have another Hurricane Beryl response allocation, $1,600,000, hurricane cleaner, marine cleanup. And yes, these costs only became necessary due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl, understandably so, to facilitate the cleaning of Carriacou and Petite Martinique. Let's move along. There are some other things that I guess you would hear in the budget presentation next week sometime. Under that same ministry, we have a SAGASM conference, y'all. A SAGASM conference 2024. I guess we forget about the net. The net thing, I guess we decide that ain't gonna work. We can't find a net long and wide enough to put out on the horizon to block the SAGASM, right? So I guess we could put that one as a pie in the sky one now, right? Is that pie in the sky? Yes. Right? So, and it says $1,247,000 to support Grenada hosting of the 2024 SAGASM conference in October of 2024. Only in May 2024, Grenada was identified to host the conference. The EU and the OECS have agreed to provide grant resources in the amount of euros $430,000. So we got a little break there. Government of Grenada committed to hosting the conference. There's some others under that ministry, but we're going to move on. And we're moving to the Ministry of Infrastructure, Physical Development, Public Utilities, Civil Aviation and Transportation, the Prime Minister's ministries. Molyneux Project, $12 million. Now, I don't understand who's doing the assessment and who is doing the math. Because in every budget, be it regular budget 2023, 2024, and the 2023 supplemental, monies were allocated for this Molyneux project. They said that they had setbacks. We know they went and jumped down the mountain, and so they had to include that. That was not included initially. And so there was an extra monies that was supposed to be allocated. I heard it from the Prime Minister and the leader of government business in the Senate, Adrian Thomas, spoke of that, and that they needed extra funds for that, and they had an allocation in the supplemental in August of 2024. The lower house met on the 25th of August, and the upper house met on the 29th of August. Right? However, we need another 12 million for that project that, according to the ministers, was first supposed to finish in January 2024. And then they told us by the middle of the year, right? the company, the contractors, the person speaking on behalf of the contractors, only recently, this past week, I heard said November. And all they need, they were just tying up. But here, we need 12 million more for that project. And the intentions for the funds, the funds will be used to cover the cost associated with the designs, modifications to ensure the safe completion of the project and reopening of the Molyneux Road. And it says, yes, the provision was unforeseen as the consultants for the project were in the process of finalizing the revised designs and costing of the project. The explanation, the expenditure cannot be deferred due to the importance of having the road reopened since it became impossible in 2019. Next, asphalt work and 15 million is allocated here for the asphalt work under the Ministry of Infrastructure. And it says for the purchase of hot mix asphalt for the rehabilitation of various roads around the island. And they tell us pay $50 more to on our license to fix roads. $50 more, but we have a $15 million allocation here to fix roads. And they said no initial allocation request was reduced, hence necessary to supplementary allocations. We're moving on. We continue with the Ministry of Infrastructure. And here we have 1 million to provide additional allocation to compensation for land acquisition. We have that 1 million in the August 2023 allocation, supplemental. A major project such as the Molyneux Road, the Springs and Cliff Road, and the Agriculture Feeder Road are rolled out. The need for compensation of additional lands becomes necessary. We had that same allocation for the same projects in the August 2023 supplemental budget. We're moving on. 4 million to provide additional allocation under the construction, refurbishment, and of government buildings projects. Then we have another 2 million to provide additional allocation for the St. John's River flood mitigation project. And we had an allocation, a further allocation, because there was allocation in the main budgets since the former administration was in office. And in that said August supplemental, there were allocations again for the St. John's River. But as fast as the budget comes in, these projects need extra money. They continue. Nothing was done in that project, on that project for, I don't think ever since they came into office. Nothing was done in the St. John's River flood mitigation project. But there were allocations for it, and we're still asking for more. We ain't used what we took yet from the last one, but we're asking for more. And a whole $2 million more. Hey, yeah. Then we have here another 5 million. We just asked for allocations for asphalt work. But we asking for another, that was, I think, was 15 million. So here we asking for another 5 million to provide additional allocation for asphalt work. 3 million to provide additional allocation for concrete work. Another 3 million to provide additional allocation for the Molyneux landslip rehabilitation project. So let's go back and add this 3. How much it was for the landslip project? For the landslip project. Let's see. Land acquisition, flood mitigation. It's gone. And so, but another 3 provided allocation. Right? So we're asking, I think, how much it was it 5 hours? I think it was. So now we're asking for another 3 million. No, it was 12 million for it. So now we're asking, it was 12 million. So now we're asking for another 3 million additional for the Molyneux landslip rehabilitation project. Olia, come, let's go through. Come. And then we have 2.5 to provide additional allocation for project design services. And then 2.1 million to provide additional allocation for the redesign of the Simon Cultural Center project. That was spoken about since the 2023 budget, right? And now they're asking for an additional sum of $2.1 million just for the redesign of the cultural project. And then we have 2.5 million, all of this under the Ministry of Infrastructure, to provide additional counterpart funding for the National Disaster Rehabilitation and Reconstruction Program Extreme. I'm not even coming over here and read their reasons, because let's see what they say here about the Molyneux. Yes, designs have been received to deal with changes in the ground condition, which will increase previously budgeted amounts. And then they said the site conditions have worsened because of the unstable ground. The revised design has to be implemented urgently to ensure the success of the project, and the payments will be required. Folks, we are coming to a big one here. Before I get to the big ones, we have another Hurricane Beryl response here. And that comes under the Ministry of Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs. And that one is for 5 million, and it's for uniform, meals, furniture, and general school supplies. So we await. That's a good one. And we do hope that the children of Carriacou and Petite Martinique are suited and fed and have furniture to sit at when they get back to school, and hopefully sooner, this September. And it says here, to facilitate the reopening of school on the Sister Isles and in St. Patrick. Okay, so we look forward to that. That's a good one. That's a good one. In that ministry as well, there's an allocation for $426,088. The amount needed to ensure payment is made to the intended recipients to the end of the year. Which recipients? The victims, the persons who are on the steps and so. Then we have another allocation of $3,094,097, and the funds are needed to continue payment of the ongoing project under the Division of Works. The ministry's budget was underestimated. Okay. And then we have $15 million to support rebuilding the economy in Carriacou. There's no explanation for that. They just said, yes, take that, and it's that, right? Now, $15 million, we asking for the rebuilding. We didn't start to rebuild yet. We had the insurance of $118 million. We had other monies given to us by friendly government and friendly persons, individuals, and so. We had the contingency fund, but we're asking for more. And we ain't pong a nail yet. We ain't pong a nail yet. And there is another Hurricane Beryl response, $5 million. We take a quick break and continue this because we come into the big ones.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. And we're going to move to, and this comes under the Ministry of Infrastructure, and we're moving to the Cliff Rehabilitation Project. And that's a pet peeve for me, really, because it affects me in my travel, in my daily travels. And that project is, from the very beginning, it's filled, for want of a better word, with corruption. That is the $100,000 shake hand project, plus $15,000 for car renovations that the minister of MIT, then acting prime minister, signed off on behind the back of the prime minister while he was out, right? And so we have here another $5 million towards the Cliff Rehabilitation Project. These additional funds would be used to accommodate a revised design and the project scope to include a widening of the carriageway. Now, we got monies for that already in the budget. That was the 2024 budget. Yes, the provisions was unforeseen, as the consultants for the project were in the process of finalizing the revised design and costings for the project. Now, how you sign off on a project? The contractors started to work. And you're saying here that the consultants for the project were in the process of finalizing and revising designs and the costings for the project, right? So why you sign off? Why the contractor and the Minister of MIT sign off on the project? What was the hurry? The Prime Minister was away. That was the hurry. And it had to be done before he came back. Because it is alleged he wanted to change the contractor. He did not want to do business with the contractor that the previous administration had signed on to or with, right? Now, I'm going to run through some here quickly because we have to come back to this cliff project. I'm going to give you a little history on this cliff project here. So we have another Hurricane Beryl response, $10 million to facilitate the cleaning of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Again, well, let me tell all you something here. Carriacou and Petit Martinique getting cleaner when they're done, they can't even build back, right? Yes, 9 crews and equipment to facilitate the cleanup of the Carriacou and Petit Martinique over a 3-month period. But there were allocations for that. We already read several, as a matter of fact, right? Hurricane Beryl response, $30 million, rebuilding damaged infrastructure, roads, bridges, health facilities, schools, and other government buildings. So what is the $118 million for? What is that for? Yes, due to Hurricane Beryl, support the reconstruction of public infrastructure, government offices, health facilities, schools, roads, and bridges. $30 million. They're making sure that the government buildings and offices are reconstructed before they look to the people who are under the steps, who are in battered, tarpaulin covered houses, who are still in shelters and about to be thrown into tents because they need the schools. Understandably so, they need the schools, but start building homes for the people so that they don't spend many months in these tents that you're about to put them in. And then we have Hurricane Beryl response here again. There's a $12,500, and that is towards the insurance, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, CRIF. And they have to put back monies towards the premium. And our new premium is here, 12,500,000. $12.5 million. Right? And so they put that back. And it says, no, provisions was never made for this fund since funds are from government to Grenada Catastrophe Insurance. And we agree that we didn't know that we would need the funds, so there was no allocation in any budget for that. And we also did not have to max out that caused us to have a rise, a new premium. We max out. And you know, we all of who know what happens with insurance, right? And then we have a Grenada Home Improvement Project, $4 million. Housing support program to restore allocation that was relocated to the Vote 29 Ministry of MIT. MIT ding. There's a Hurricane Beryl response here again for another $5 million. Now, I'm going to come back to the Cliff project. Let's have a chat about this Cliff project. It's a special one indeed. It is a special one. In the 2023 budget, $2.5 million was allocated to the Cliff project. And here is the Prime Minister with that allocation.
Or what is known as the Cliff Road. Mr. Speaker, the stretch of road from the Sugar Mill to the Springs Woodlands roundabout, and from there to the Woburn-Munjaloo junction needs urgent upgrading, especially the latter. The section from the Cliff to the Woodlands junction is narrow, accident-prone, and it's a major cause for growing traffic bottlenecks in and out of Brandon and the town of St. George. This project will be funded from local resources, and construction work is expected to commence during the first half of 2023 and conclude by the middle of 2024. An amount of $2.5 million is budgeted for this project next year.
2.5 million. Heard it from the horse's mouth. Then in August 2023, the 25th, in the supplementary budget, there was another allocation related to the same Cliff project of $1 million. That is to pay, remember I told you to pay for the persons, the reclaiming of lands. Here is the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there's a sum for $1 million to provide additional allocations for compensation for land acquisition. Mr. Speaker, as you're aware, once you are dealing with things like road repairs, road improvements, road expansions, that oftentimes you face the possibility of having to acquire private lands in order to treat with that. And by way of simple example, Mr. Speaker, we are seeking to, work has been delayed on the Cliff Woburn site, Mr. Speaker, because the designs which were provided were essentially the same thing, rebuild the road exactly as it is. Mr. Speaker, we all appreciate that there's significant construction taking place on the East Coast, which means large trucks, large trailer trucks traverse this route. Some of these corners are literally hairpin corners, and we have to improve the line of sight. We have to widen the road, in addition to dealing with rock and land slippage, as well as significant retaining walls. So it is likely, Mr. Speaker, that there are some private lands in the vicinity of where we are trying to widen the roads that we may need to acquire. It's important for us to have the allocation to make sure that if we get to the point where we have to acquire private citizens' lands, that we have the funds to do.
So there we go. There was that $1 million allocation. Then in the 2024 budget presentation, the Minister of Finance, Dennis Cornwall, announced that the allocation of $3 million towards the same Cliff project. Now, it takes a lot of time to find these clips, and I couldn't go back to listening to Cornwall to get the clip, but we have here a snapshot of the hard copy of the budget. And if you look where it's plotted out there, you would see, where it's highlighted, I should say, you would see the allocation of $3 million for the 2024 budget allocation. 8 months later, in the upcoming supplementary budget, as I read to you here, they're asking for another $5 million. Another $5 million. Now, lest we forget, This is Minister Andy Williams of MIT project. Lest we forget, the minister got his truck done up at the cost of $15,000 and a golden handshake of $100,000 in exchange for the contract. All this was the Minister for Infrastructure, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, was off island, and Minister Andy was acting as Prime Minister. Signed off on the contract without the knowledge of the Prime Minister and Minister of Infrastructure. What is it? What is it this guy have holding for the Prime Minister? What is it that, and now we give him how much? $24 million to play with? Now the contractor was already awarded the contract by the previous NMP administration. Contracting firm Consolidated Contractors Company, Caribbean Inc., CCCCI, owned by Mr. Nelson Louison. Now it is alleged that the Prime Minister and Minister of Infrastructure did not want to use CCCCI for the Cliff project anymore, but was sidelined by the Minister of MIT, Andy Williams, while acting as Prime Minister. Now, work on that project had stopped weeks ago. The project began in April 2024 without any mobilization funds. However, information reaching me is that the mobilization funds was paid recently, and as of in the amount of EC $1 million. And work has resumed from last Monday of this week. Work has resumed. So then, why is it there are another allocation for the Cliff project when nothing was being done really? The contractors were not being paid, and a total of $11.5 million really was allocated already, including this $5 million, right? For this Cliff project. All of the budgets of the NDC, the two main budgets, the two annual budgets, and the two supplemental, had funds included in it for the Cliff project. Now, who's doing the math? Where's the money going? Falling in a big hole somewhere? According to Arsenio Hall, you had to be my age group and so to know about Arsenio Hall. Right? But seriously, it shows, in my opinion, a level of incompetence. If we just had to keep adding extra, and as long as these projects are out there, we just going back for more and more money for the project. Now, I have to also zero in on the supplementary allocations for Beryl, right? All these many allocations for the Beryl relief, they call it, right? Response, the Hurricane Beryl response. We have small ones, we have big ones. All ministries have We have allocation to GDP, the 25 million for loans. What is interesting is that Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, as Minister for Infrastructure, he is the one who has recommended these allocations. He keeps requesting money, while the Minister of MIT has all these shadiness going on, and we're still giving him these big allocations to build house and to complete 26 houses in St. Patrick and to build another 15 in St. Patrick, where 98% of the homes was destroyed in St. Patrick and St. Mark. Are we aiding and abetting here the corruption in that ministry, that MIT ministry, and that minister? Now, supplementary describes something extra. So what happened to the 2.5 million from the 2023 budget and the supplementary budget that we need to give another allocation to the NOC for the celebrations, for the independence celebrations? Another 5 million. So we're talking now 27.5 million. And we yet to know where the money went. 1 and 1 certainly not making 2. And for sure, about 11. Folks, the Prime Minister in an interview on GBN Talk Show to the point yesterday, the 21st August 2024, had this to say about the Cliff Project.
The Woodlands to Cliff Woburn Road project has been closed since March to allow for major renovation undertaken by the Ministry of Infrastructure and Development. Heavy machinery and workers returned to the project site as of Monday. On GBN's To The Point program on Wednesday morning, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell responded to questions relating to the health of the project.
The Cliff project is ongoing. We have to understand construction. Construction is not always a situation where every day you see physical activity or construction taking place on the site. So what you would have had initially is excavation work commence, particularly on the top side. We would have had to, we needed Grenlick to move the utility lines. That should have happened. There was some delay there, and it was interrupted again by Hurricane Beryl, and we need to focus on the restoration works. So the utility lines needed to be moved. The contractor required certain equipment, particularly for the retaining walls, yes, that form work and so on, that has been imported. I believe it should have been cleared by now. If not, I expect that will take place shortly. And obviously, sometimes with things like Carnival, particularly in the construction industry, employers tend to give their workmen and women sometimes an opportunity to take a break. And therefore, certainly construction activity should have resumed as of Monday.
So we had Carnival from March to August. We had Carnival because this work stopped a long time now. It started, and once there's construction going on, it's visible. I don't understand how there are some parts of construction that are not visible, right? It's visible, and there was no construction there for weeks, maybe you could say months, nothing happening. Yes, it started back Monday because the people get some money, right? So all this thing about Carnival and there's take time off and all of this. Come on, Prime Minister. I've been talking talking about this project weeks now. And so the people know what's going on with this project. You now come with a long story, which is not true, which is false, which is fake news. Let's see and let's hope that the project keep, because it is causing issues for a lot of people. I'm sure the persons who live on that road with all the dust and all of that they have to go through. This project, according to you, Prime Minister, in the budget, was supposed to start and finish around now. Not now starting, but it was supposed to finish around now. It's inconveniencing to have to do the Woburn route. It's not one of the easiest roads to pass either. It's almost a one-way after a certain hour and before in the mornings and in the evenings. The entire side of part of the road. Then on Thursdays, there's an event that takes place in one of the shops, the village shops there, and the traffic back up right out to Woodlands, and you have to see so much trouble to get through with cars parked on both sides of the road. It's very inconveniencing. And we look like we're in this for the long haul, for the rest of the year, you know? It took you all these months from April to now to speak on that project, and this is what you're coming to tell us? In an article dated August 19, 2024, written by Mark Jones, a BBC reporter for almost 2 decades, covering the biggest news story in the region, captioned, "Barrel-battered Grenada becomes first to use government bond hurricane clause." Now, we like fuss, huh? We like fuss, no matter if it's positive or if it's negative, but we like fuss. Grenada has become the first country in the world to use a so-called hurricane clause in a government bond, a special feature that allows authorities to postpone debt payments in the wake of a major natural disaster. The move comes after Hurricane Beryl wrought destruction in parts of the Caribbean last month, including in Grenada, where Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell estimated it had caused damage equivalent to roughly a third of its annual economic output. In a notice of the holders of one of its only international bonds, the Grenadian finance minister said it had, and I quote, elected to make deferral claim as a result of the event, adding the modeled loss of the economy from Beryl was greater than 30 million. You see here now they're saying, greater than, a little around 30 million. My man says 600 million, Mr. Tevin Andrew. It means Grenada will not make the bonds next scheduled payments due on November 12th and May 12th next year, which combined add up to just over 12.5 million. Instead, the monies will be added to the 112 million bonds, subsequent lump sum principal payments until the end of the term 2023. The move, which will also see Grenada defer roughly another 5 million, made up to a bilateral loan from Taiwan and 2 other smaller loans, is a landmark step. It is the first time a country has triggered a natural disaster clause, and Grenada was the first to include one back in 2015 after a previous hurricane led the move, which will also see Grenada defer roughly another 5 million made up of the bilateral loan from Taiwan and 2 other smaller loans, is a landmark step. Now, I'm going to stop here and we'll continue this here. First, they said they had triggered the default clause. Then it turned out they didn't. And I'm speaking here of the government of Grenada. Now, we've learned through the news from outside source, from the UK, that it was done. Now, if the damages was estimated at 30 million, and we collected 55 million USD in insurance monies and other monies from friends and friendly governments, totaling roughly, I think I did a sort of a addition. Let me get it. I did from hearing what they said, right? I don't know if that was all of it, but when you follow in the news and so, 210 million, right? Roughly. Just from adding up, when you hear a little bit, you know, we got 300,000 from the Cayman Islands and that sort of thing, right? 210 million. 18,600,000 from the contingency fund. We know that much because they had to replace it and they're asking for an allocation to replace it. They're asking for monies in the supplemental to restore contingency fund for hurricane barrel response. Lots of monies, millions and millions, right? And we cannot put roofs over the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique heads and the few from mainland Grenada. I mean, they say that amount was relocated to various ministries. That is the 18 million from the contingency fund. In the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Beryl. We don't know what it was used for in the different ministries, but 18 million was used. Why trigger the clause? Why trigger the debt clause? All that's done in a result is them kicking the can further down the road. And as someone said to me, you know, somebody would have to pay the debt and the additional interest rate and everything. And they probably know it wouldn't be them because the writing is on the wall. But we made another fuss. Interestingly, the first country in the world to use a so-called, and I'm quoting here, the first country in the world to use a so-called hurricane clause in a government bond. a special feature that allows authority to postpone debt payments in the wake of a major natural disaster. All this, and not one penny from the insurance has yet been spent on the people of Grenada, at least that we know of. In 2015, the clause to be able to default was put into the bond agreement by Grenada, another incentive of the former administration. The first Caribbean country to do so was Grenada, and Barbados and Jamaica followed suit. Barbados did it in 2018. They didn't claim, nobody else claimed from it. It was we the first. People, my people, folks, friends, followers, well-wishers of Simon Says, Carriacou is in a mess. Grenada is in a mess, but it's in a different type of mess. We know what Carriacou is. We're talking post Hurricane Beryl. Grenada, we just totally in a mess from incompetence and inefficiency, badly managed, poor management from an incompetent administration. It is clear the government of Grenada has no clue how to or where to begin. In the meanwhile, the majority of people there are living in despair, and I'm speaking of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. The incentives given to the victims of Hurricane Beryl, as per usual, will only affect the rich, the business people, the business community, those who have insurance on their property, because of course, these persons can go to Miami, shop, send down platters or containers, and they would receive their deductions on the port, VAT and custom deductions from the port. The poor man person, they asked to bring in their land papers and to show that they have paid up their taxes. So if you lost your home in Carriacou and Petit Martinique and you can't afford to fix it back yourself and you have no land papers, let's say, you know how family give you a spot and that type of thing, or you've been squatting and you have no land papers to show, and even if you have land papers to show and you cannot show that you paid your taxes, you will not be able to get help from the government of Grenada. The poor men in the shelters are now asked to remove themselves so that they can refurbish the schools and get them ready for September. And if you look on the screen, you see what I call a brownie tent. You know when you go on camp from brownies and guides, that they're asking the families to move into. As I said, I understand that they have to move them out of the schools. You need the schools so the kids can go to school, but the kids have no place to live. And so the conditions that they face would affect their learning conditions as well, right? And so I do hope that the tents are very, very temporary measures, very temporary, but we look forward to what's going to happen there. Monies were never accounted for. Monies received as gifts from friendly government and beyond was never told to the people or accounted for. We have no idea what's been taking place, but Little addition here and there, as I said. We came up with $210 million total. Then there is the 55 million US dollars, which is 180 million EC. Where is the money? You fixing businessmen property, who are party hawks, of course. The people are still on the tarpaulins, on the steps, wherever they can. I mean, some of them to not to be in the crowded shelters, rather just borrow a space. 8 weeks now, no movements yet. The NNP gave vouchers to persons who couldn't afford to rebuild on their own and who didn't have insurances and so. To take to hardware stores, the LA Purcells and the Mohon M&N hardware and the Hubbards and so. To take to these hardware stores to get materials to rebuild. And that was on the government of Grenada. They paid these companies. So do something for that demographic. Do something for these people. Anything to help them. Help the helpless. We help them. You take $25 million from the people's insurance money to put in GDP and asking them to borrow. It's only the people that could afford to borrow that would borrow, because you have to have money to get money. And so the hoteliers, and so they're going to eat it up. You know, they took the low-income houses from these people, the low-income earners, the poor and the vulnerable. They lock it up and have them there. I know of an individual who managed to get a loan because she had a decent job. And up to today, she has not received a unit. And so you know what she did? She's now living downstairs at her mother's house. While waiting, can't wait no more to move in. And she actually had the monies. What is going on with the low-income houses? Where is the board? Where is the board? The Prime Minister resides in a mansion, a $20,500 mansion. Monthly payment, rent, $20,500. And he said all he lost during the burial passing was a tree in the yard. So he's okay. He goes home every evening with his panoramic view and his $20,500 rented house. Him, a single man. I guess his kids might come over weekends or so, but he lives, as I understand, practically alone. $20,000 to pay a month. You know what $20,000 could do for a couple of these people who are living under the step, a few sheets of plywood and some galvanized and windows, and you know, $20,000 a month. Government of Grenada is forking out. Give the people the monies from the insurance. The people paid that policy. $1 million USD annually. The people paid that money. And now I think almost 6 times the amount is the premium. Now, besides that, I saw somewhere, don't quite remember where, that crime in Karakou is on the down low, and that is furthest from the truth. And I think it was, and don't quote me here, that it was a policeman who was giving the report, but I saw it somewhere. Reports from Karakou are there a rise in crime, looting at homes, especially with the foreign residents. A foreign resident, former owner of the Kayak Cafe in Hillsborough and the now Juicy Lucy Juice Bar in Tyrrell Bay, in a statement, and I quote, "I think we are going to rename Karakou to Crimeakou. Last night, someone broke into my car, and this is not last night, this is an article that was written before. Last night, someone broke into my car on the main road, stealing petrol and the battery. I had not put the car inside as I have been waiting on Greenwich to remove a pole which is about to fall in the yard. This is over a week now. The looting is severe. It's still going on in houses and boats in the mangrove where the police force, whereas the Coast Guard, at least to patrol the streets at night, not to stand at junctions, making sure you don't go down the wrong street. Crime is rampant in Crimeakou at the moment, and nothing is being done about it. Why? Persons are afraid to leave their homes, that I know of, and I've heard that, to leave their property or what is left of it for fear that looting would happen once they leave, because they don't have windows, they may not have doors, in some cases they don't even have walls, but they manage to save some of their stuff. The yachties are unhappy, they're breaking into their boats and looting. Then there is the nepotism that is at its highest level right now as well. The permanent secretary and the MP, the Minister for Karakou and Petite Martinique Affairs, Stephen Andrew, and the permanent secretary, Mr. Javon Williams, have hired all their family members and friends, including the wife of the permanent secretary, wife in charge of various relief stations, including positions on port to receive items and distribute fuel, food, and other areas. Ms. Nadia Williams, the permanent secretary, sister-in-law, was interviewed and recommended to serve as the head of social services. People of Karakou, I want to leave you with a couple of messages from your MP, your Member of Parliament and Minister of Karakou and Petite Martinique Affairs.
As Member of Parliament, forget now me as Minister, me as your Member of Parliament and me as a kayak. Let's be real, there are many of us as kayaks, many of you as kayaks who could afford to rebuild your homes. There are many people that could afford to rebuild their homes. Don't ask me, I'm telling you. And yes, you want the government to rebuild your house for you. I find that real unfair. You could afford to rebuild your home. You have the money sitting in the bank to rebuild your house, your home, or to do your roof, and you want the government to do it for you. I mean, this is sad. I mean, wherever we hear that from, we have to do better than that. So yes, the government will do everything that it can to assist, and that is why we announce the measures as it relates to the tax-free measures on building materials and supplies, and tax-free measures as it relates to imported items, household items and so on that you've lost during the hurricanes, so that you can go and do what you have to do. But you can't expect the government to do everything for you. That is impossible. There's no government in the world, not even the ones, not even the former administration are running them out about what we're doing for the people, because they didn't half of the things that we're doing, they have not. The supermarkets are open. Some of the people that are running them out the most are public officers, teachers, public officers who are receiving their salaries still running. The shop open, the supermarket open, and you're making confusion for case of water and bottle of water. The loudest people on social media are the people whose salaries are running. No, let's be real.
First of all, we ought to know, and I want to tell you here that I'm not even sure if the banks open yet in Carriacou, but they had no banks open, so people couldn't access their funds and that type of thing. And why is it that it's not okay for a public officer to want a case of water? Why is that not okay? Why is it okay to help Patty Hawks, Leo Joseph, and Kim with the radio station? It's okay to help them to rebuild, give them monies to fix their properties. But it's not okay to give a public servant, a hard-working public servant, some water to drink. And you have a problem because they have salaries running. It'd be interesting to know, Minister, if you've been going to the supermarket and buying water because your salary is running. It'd be interesting to note, because you said it, you know. Your family is standing by the road waiting for water as well, you know, and waiting for the trucks to pass. You said it in one of your many lives. Where you lie and say you're homeless. You said it. It's not okay for the public servant because they have a running salary to get some relief. Are you kidding me? And you know how much money your constituents have in the bank to know that they have money in the bank and they come in to ask the government for help? What some terrible things to say about your constituents on a live for the world to see. There are things you just don't say, not because you can say. And that is because you have no idea what it is to be an MP and to be a representative and to be the minister of Carriacou and Petite Martinique's affair. Your arrogance precedes you. And so I think you just dug your grave, sir. I think you just dug your grave. And there are more, you know, people. There are more. I just pulled these two because it was done yesterday. And so next week, I can share with you some more of the utterances of this arrogant, incompetent leader. Just one of the many. I often say, I do believe one of the criteria to be a candidate for the NDC in the last election must have been you have to be arrogant. That had to be one of the criteria. They all are. They all are. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, keeping them honest. Thank you for viewing another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. See you next week, same time, same place.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.